Ever feel like you're living the same day over and over? If mom life feels like an exhausting whirlwind of laundry, dinner, driving, and frustration on repeat, you're not alone. For every other thing we do in life, there's training. But for the most important job, we're just figuring it out as we go. Mom University is here to change that. It will give you the skills and education to break free of old patterns and be a leader in your home. Thanks for enrolling in Mom U. Class is about to start. Hello and welcome to Mom University. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen. I am glad you're here today, and I'm joined today by Meagan Allers. Meagan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to chat with the Mom University crew.
Totally. We're going to have a great conversation all about connecting, friendships, all of those good things. And Meagan is the perfect person to have this conversation with. She's the head of community at Marco Polo, and Marco Polo is one of our sponsors for Mom University. So super fun. I love Marco Polo in general. I love the way that it allows us to connect, and we're going to talk about that today. But before we dive into that, can you give us a brief introduction? Just tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Megan. I live down in San Diego, California, and I'm a previous educator. I worked in the K-12 and college space and have always been curious about ways people were connecting from college campuses to social media. And so 8 years ago, I stumbled across our Marco Polo founders, a husband and wife team, Vlada and Miha Bortnik, and I was lucky enough to join the team as it was, a team of engineers at the time as the first like non-engineer kind of hire. And so over the past 8 years at Marco Polo, I've worked so closely with our community through like focus groups or outreach on Instagram to, running ambassador programs or different things. And it has just been so, so joyful.
That's awesome. Okay, that's cool. And it's always fun, if you've been with a company for a while to see the changes and in this case, to see the growth as, Marco Polo has continued to grow. That's fun. Now, I love the concept. If for those who don't know, let's start there. For those who don't know what Marco Polo is, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so we like to say Marco Polo is a video chat app that is more personal, more meaningful than a text message. You're getting to see someone's face, hear their tone, see their surroundings, but it's more convenient than scheduling a FaceTime. So you don't have to both be live at the same time, which is super helpful for like time zone kind of situations where it's like 3 hours or 6 hours, and you're like, wait, we're so busy, I can't find a time to connect. So Marco Polo allows you when you're available to, grab your phone, tap start and record a video message to your friend or family member, and then it's saved there. So they can pick it up whenever they have a chance to watch your message and then send you one back. So, for me personally, I'm in San Diego. My good friends are in Buffalo, New York. And so on my morning commute for my girlfriend, Sheila, she's sending me a polo of her day with what's going on. And then a couple hours later, I'm able to pick it up and listen to her polo on my morning walk and then send her one back. And we end up having like 20 minutes of connection between the two of us throughout the day, but it's broken up into these small, pockets of our day, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's especially important as moms because as moms, I know for me, it can be really hard to talk on the phone. In fact, my mom just called right before we
Yeah.
recorded this podcast. I'm like, Mom, I gotta go. I have a podcast coming up. And it seems like there's always things, if it's not a podcast, right? It's your kid needing you, it's school
Yep.
schedules and soccer schedules and all these things. And so moms end up often feeling isolated where
Yep.
they don't get that connection. And
Mhm.
so, talk to us about some of the ways that you have found to connect.
Yeah. So it's funny that the core demographic of Marco Polo is definitely like females, like 25 to 45, but so many of our users are moms. And for the
Mm.
exact reasons you talked about, finding time between kid pickups and activities to like sit down and have a conversation without distractions is really rare. And so for so many of the moms I hear from, they're like, they can have their car mount during carpool pickups. And once they drop the kids off, listen to a message, or they're gonna, while they're folding laundry or doing dishes, they're going to play a polo from a friend, like a personal friend podcast. So they find these ways to like habit stack, of like what they're
Yeah.
doing. Like what's a habit? Maybe they go for a walk every day with the kids, and that's their time that they're going to send us a quick polo message or find a way to connect in that way, which I think can be really powerful. Then it's like more of like, okay, this is just what I do, and you can find time for connection that way versus needing to like schedule, which we'll just end up pushing things out. Like we should get together. So many people say that, and then
Yes.
it like never actually ends up happening.
Yeah. I've found this to be true for me. I have a friend who is a really close friend of mine. We used to live in the same city and she moved
Yeah.
away. And we really struggled to connect after she left. It was always like, oh, we should get in touch. We should call. And every once in a while, we'd have a long phone conversation, on a Sunday when it was quiet or whatever. But it was rare. It was just
Mhm.
hard to find the time. And about a year ago, I was like, hey, can we just Marco Polo? Can you get on Marco Polo with me? And so she started doing it. And this last year, she actually was diagnosed with cancer, sadly. But while as she's going through this process and even finding out, she's Marco Poloing me.
Yep.
It wasn't like she had to call me and hope I could be there and have this conversation. And also with something like that, that it's a little tender, a little hard. And sometimes, for me on the other end, I don't always know what to say. It's
Yep.
really powerful to have that time. So she's telling me what's going on and the tests and what they've found and all of the things on Marco Polo, and it's very heartfelt, and I get to see her and I get to feel that emotion, and then I get to process it and give her an answer back, and not have that like deer in the headlights moment where you kind of don't know what to say to someone. And so it's been good for our friendship. It's been really cool to be able to be there for her through that process.
Mhm.
And it's just really cool. The connection, it has such a different feel, right? Than just like a phone call, partly because you can do it so often. Like you said, you can make it part of your habits. I think that's really powerful. I'm curious, as you've been in this industry for a long time and worked with lots of women, what kind of things have you seen? Like, what difference have you seen it make for moms?
Oh, I mean, so powerful in connecting them with, friends or family members that maybe they've lost touch with. But I've also seen some really incredible stories of like building new friendships. And I think that so often I've heard about this idea when you become a mom, it's like the new identity that you're taking on, and you want to connect with other women who have been through it, who have advice, who have support. And so I see so often that these women go to like a Facebook group or like an in-person meetup. And, when you're seeing someone, I think you need like, so many hours. It's like 200 hours for someone to become like a good friend, right? And when you're in that phase of new motherhood, when you are maybe more isolated at home, it's hard to build up that time to build, and create a new friendship. And so I have many stories of people who took a friend from Facebook. They're like, hey, I'm looking to connect in this way. Will you get on Marco Polo with me? Similar to what you shared with your friendship. And then being able to talk through Marco Polo, I'm getting goosebumps, but they're able to form these real friendships because you're having these kinds of honest kinds of conversations. And with that, so often I hear that, when you're having a phone call once a month with a friend or doing a catch up, you're going to give the big, boulders of your month, or what the real big things that you've done or talked about, where you talked about the frequency of Marco Polo because it's maybe a couple times a day. You're sharing these mundane moments,
Yeah.
what is going on with the kids, what you're maybe struggling with, what you're celebrating, and you get so many more of these mundane moments that really can create that closeness and provide a way for your friend to support you and you to support them, and, build up that friendship a lot quicker.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love that so much. All kinds of thoughts are coming to my mind. And I love, first of all, what you said about like the mundane moments kind of thought that we're sharing the real. And I don't mean REEL. I don't mean the Instagram reel. I mean the other, like keeping it real, kind of real, because it's so easy. Like you said, when you are just sharing the overview, this was hard, but I got over it. That's kind of how we share. Versus if you're like, wow, today my 5-year-old threw the biggest fit at the grocery store. I was so embarrassed. And you're telling the story live, like, when the emotions are real and raw. And that connects you in a much different way than a month later, when you're just like, oh yeah, we've had a little rough time with the kids. It's a whole different thing. It's a whole different thing.
And so much of it too, like when we created Marco Polo, the whole purpose of the company is to help people feel close. And with that intentionality, you're not going to find a ton of filters or anything like that. And we find that that allows people to share very authentically, very vulnerably, that they're not
Yeah.
coming off like, how do I look? I need to be in this perfect light. It's much more like, okay, hair's in a bun, we're at carpool pickup, or we're just going to bed, or we're just waking up. And, and that's okay because you're sharing with this friend and this person who knows you, knows the real you, that you don't need all of that to be connecting.
It's really freeing in
Yeah.
that way it isn't the same as like posting on Instagram where like everyone's going to see. It's a private thing that you're sharing with who you want to. In fact, it makes me laugh because Marco Polo will sometimes say, "Oh, your contact so and so is on Marco Polo. Do you want to connect?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not. I do not want to connect with that person. Like that they are not a Marco Polo friend." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are levels. So,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you some of my levels while we're on that because
Yeah.
one of the things that I've used Marco Polo for is in my coaching.
Yep.
I I do my coaching in groups. And what happens with the Marco Polo groups, I've done this both being coached and as a coach. And it is so powerful because we've got this group and they start off as people who don't know each other.
Yep.
And then when we're talking throughout the week, and exactly what you said, we're showing up, maybe with our messy house in the background or kids interrupting or dogs barking. Our real life is on display. We get to know each other really fast, and those connections happen in a really deep way. And I love what you said that part of the goal here is to build new friendships because that's also part of the goal with Mom University. That I know that a lot of moms are feeling isolated and they haven't quite found their tribe yet. And
Yep.
so to come to an event in San Diego is awesome. And they're going to have this weekend and be with the other moms and have that beginnings of friendship, which is really powerful. And I think there's something really amazing about being in person, just giving people a hug and seeing and having that tangible. But then that little budding friendship to be able to keep that up,
Mhm.
that's where this comes in, that it's not just like, oh, I hope we'll stay in touch, that then you have this way. And in fact, that is part of what is built into Mom University is ongoing villages that you're put in these little groups.
Yeah.
And I anticipate that most of them will use Marco Polo to connect and to have this friendship that stays much longer than just over the weekend.
Yeah, I love that too. And I think that the in-person connection, getting to meet someone first is huge. And then
Yeah.
like you're already somewhat comfortable with them to then be able to go like, okay, like yeah, now we can Marco Polo. It's really great. I'm sure with the
Yes.
groups, like it's always interesting, and I do this as well, where you put, five or six people that in a group together, and you're like, okay, like mingle with each other, and like it's like okay, like do your first polo. And it is really exciting to see a group gel together as well,
Yeah.
and
It's
just
cool.
how quickly that can kind of happen.
Yes, definitely. Well, so let's back up a little bit and talk about the bigger picture, the why here. So,
Yeah.
why do women, and especially moms, seek connection with other women?
Yeah, I think it comes back to this idea of, it takes a village kind of a thing. And I think
Yeah.
that so often we were living very close to our families, and we were in that physical proximity with them. And as we've moved away, jobs, moves, whatever it be, we're all still looking for that village. And so I think, when we, especially coming into motherhood, whatever stage your kid may be at, you want that support, you want that guidance of someone who's been there and kind of done it before. And so I think that that's why we're seeing, the rise of the in-person like mom meetups coming back again after
Yes.
COVID, and the different virtual events and things that are happening as well. Because I think we need that adult conversation time. We need that support where maybe you are in the trenches of, kids under 5 that are at home, and you're kind of trying to juggle things. And I have moms that share with me, Megan, like I take a minute throughout the day and I go in my closet and shut the door and just like polo a friend for just like, okay, like I'm in the moment, I'm real. This is, real motherhood and what's going on. And I think that that kind of support is really needed.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important. My brother is really cute with the nieces and nephews. He uses Marco Polo to connect with them. That's
Yeah.
been really, really fun just to
Yeah.
see. And I love that. And they'll just be silly. But I do think there's something really, powerful and special that happens with women connecting with women.
Yep.
I mean, we all need that. We all need connection, but women, sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes my kids don't listen to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really hard just feeling like they don't even want to hear anything I have to say. And most moms are going to get that. Like they know what that's like because they're feeling it too. And so to have someone who like wants to hear what that's about, like knows exactly where you're coming from, and that's a really powerful thing. So I do think that's super important as women. Um Now, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but this idea of wanting to be perfect, right? Of like, and I know this can be an intimidating thing, especially with video. It's
Mhm.
hard to get on video. It's interesting because I've gotten pretty comfortable on video. I do a lot of video now, but it was uncomfortable and I felt very stiff and formal like when I first started video. Um and so I think that that can be a scary thing, being vulnerable, being our true selves. Any thoughts on how we can get past that surface level and that fear and that whatever it is that keeps us from those deeper relationships?
Yeah. I think it starts with finding a person you feel safe with and to start practicing with them. I know, especially with Marco Polo, like that front facing camera is on you. And so as you're talking, you're looking at yourself. And so
Yeah.
often I hear from our community that in a way it can be therapeutic as you're
Mm.
debriefing and going through kind of your day and what's happening. Like you're talking about it. And polos don't have a limit on the length. So some can, get 5, 10 minutes of storytelling. But as you keep doing those, and rarely do I go back and rewatch a video that I've done, so it's like you kind of put it out there, your friend is going to see it. And I think practice, like over time, it can really help. And so often I hear from people of the community as well who say, like, I was really scared to go on Instagram or go on a Zoom webinar or go on something that's more public, do a Facebook Live. But after using Marco Polo one-on-one with a friend or family member, I now have built up the confidence to go live on Instagram or Facebook or those different things. So I think
Yeah.
it starts with just like repetition and finding a person that you feel safe with to start like practicing that with.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what are your thoughts? What would you suggest for moms listening to this who are like, okay, yeah, that's cool. If I had someone to Marco Polo, I would do it, right? They're
Yeah.
just looking to have those mom friends. What would you suggest as a starting point for them?
Yeah. I think take a look within your own life of, are there friends from, that maybe you have lost touch with? Maybe they're high school friends or college friends, old neighbors or things like that, that maybe you want to feel closer with them. And I love how you mentioned that you basically said to your friend, like, hey, I want to feel closer to you. Would you try this with me? And I have a friend in my life who I did that with as well, that we would just text and I'm like, no, like I want to feel closer. Will you try this with me?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a great place to start. And then also, like, there are the Facebook mom groups out there. I also love this organization called the Mom Walk Co. And they have local chapters, 150 across the US, where they organize mom walks once a month.
Cool.
And so that's a great organization, like in your own community that you can do. And I do have
Yeah.
another mom who has a neurodivergent child, and they have an in-person meetup in her local area that they were meeting up once a month for dinner. And she's like, when you're at a dinner with someone, you can only have so many conversations. It's loud in there and all that stuff. But she actually created a Marco Polo group for the women that they were doing dinners. And so now all 15 of them are on Marco Polo chatting in between the in-person
Yeah.
meetups. And that's really helped as well. So those are some options to get started.
I love it. I love how it just keeps us in our day to day. And I will say it is a total dopamine hit to get a Marco Polo. You're like, "Ooh, I got a Marco Polo." It's just a lot of fun. A fun way to connect, to deepen friendship, something that we all need. So I love that. So, any final thoughts for us before we finish up? Anything that you were hoping I would ask that I haven't asked yet?
Yeah, no, I think I love the conversation, especially with moms. And while I'm not a mom yet, I've just been learning so much about the experience and the need for connection. That's really big. And so, as a company, we have this big purpose of wanting to help people feel close. And our whole foundation is built on, user trust and safety. And so we're founded by a mom, Vlada and Mihao, and they've got their 2 daughters. And so with Marco Polo, we don't sell ads or like user data when you come on. Like
Mm,
it's really about that connection. And every year we do third-party research as well, and we grab 100 women who haven't used Marco Polo before and ask them to switch from texting to Marco Polo for 14 days. And at the end of those 14 days, for 4 years in a row now, over 90% have said they felt closer to that person they were texting with and then poloing with. So I think there's a lot of power in connection, especially through video and the busy lives that we all lead. And so I hope that the Mom University community can reach out and connect both virtually and in person at the Mom University event as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Well, we're grateful that Marco Polo is sponsoring. If you come to Mom University, you'll see something in the swag bag from Marco Polo and have an opportunity to use it at an even deeper level. We appreciate you and all the things that you've taught us. I know that this is something, it's near and dear to my heart, this idea of connecting and something that we all need. And so thank you, Meagan, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you're a mom whose days feel like Groundhog's Day and you find yourself wondering what you're doing it all for, join us at our in-person Mom University event. You'll get the support, tools, and help to become the mom you want to be. For details, go to universityformoms.com.